So today I'm actually doing a kind of special one-off video, which will be going into, I guess, the most frequently asked questions that we always get after international events, and especially directed at me, the coach. So I'm just gonna expose Divals, and just be brutally honest about everything that happened, and just kind of answer all those questions that I always get asked, and just get it all out there for all the people who really want to know about what happened at MSI. So the first question that I tend to get asked a lot is, why do Divals keep losing international events? So this is a bit of a tricky question because there's no just one answer. So every international event we've been to, it's been a different reason. So MSI 2017, we were just so overly cocky, had no idea what we're getting ourselves into, being our first international event, so we just got annihilated. Worlds last year, 2017 Worlds, we were just so far behind the meta that we weren't able to adapt when it mattered, and then when we got onto the stage, we crumbled because of our failure to adapt in between days. And it felt like this event, for us, it was a really strange one. It was such a weird feeling because I felt probably the most confident of all the events coming in not overly confident, not cocky, but because there's a fine line between cocky and confidence, being cocky and confident. But I could see where we could win, and I knew that teams like Supermassive were going to be extremely strong. I knew they were going to be tough to beat, but I felt like there was a chance. But for me, it was a few reasons which I'll go into in other questions. But what it came down to in the end for us was we didn't really have an identity. So, for example, Supermassive came into that event. They had a clear way of playing, and they knew how to execute their compositions extremely well. Like GBM, when he played Vladimir, you could tell how well versed they were playing the Vlad and how well they were able to get flanks. We had never experienced a team that could flank that well, and we obviously didn't adapt to it in game. But they had a clear identity, and it felt like whatever they played, we were always going to be at a disadvantage, even if we thought we outdrafted, because that was the way they played the game. They were comfortable with the way they played the game, and they looked at us and were like, okay, Doubles don't really have a style. They have priorities and champions, but they don't really have style. They don't have an identity. It's as long as we play our game, we're going to win. I think that's the way they felt. So I feel like that was the main reason for us not having a great international performance, and some other things which I'll go on in further questions. The second question that I get asked a lot is, why was it the same as last year? So, people say, you've been to MSI before, you've been to Worlds before, how can you let this happen? How can you have this poor performance again at your third major international tournament? Well, to be honest, there's no real easy way of saying it. We straight up fucked up, in the sense that this tournament, we thought that we kind of patched all the problems that we had at previous tournaments, and then new ones arose because we had new players. So obviously new dynamic with Triple and Cupcake, sorry. And I feel like there was a lot of personal things going on that were not related to just straight up playing our game. So for example, this kind of ties in with the third question. I'll tie it in together, but I believe that King and Chippy's choked heavily this event. I don't feel like they played to their level, and the reason they didn't play to the level was because they were thinking about things that weren't in their control. And so for example, King, in my mind, he went into this tournament to try and prove to others that he had improved, and proved to Zeitnot that I'm a worthy opponent, rather than going into that event and actually displaying his skill freely without any attachment to the result. And same as Chippies, he went in to prove that I'm the best carry top laner, or I'm gonna show you we beat Supermassive last time. I mean, I got destroyed by you last time. I think I'm a better top laner or whatever. It's I feel like Chippies and King, they weren't focused on just executing the game plan or executing our team comp or executing, or I guess expressing their skill as a player, independent of like things that are happening outside of their control. And what that did is when the pressure's on, you're gonna default to your habits. You're going to, and then when you're on that stage, all those things are running through your mind. You're not actually focused on like moving your character and thinking about what you can do to win that game. You're thinking about, oh, how can I prove to others, or how can I make myself look right, or how can I? You're just not thinking about the game. If you're ever not thinking about the game, you're generally not going to win. And you got to get to your, like, I feel like Steven, which is Triple and Cupcake and Shern, they were all able to like get into that like zone. I don't like really call it the zone, but more like they were able to get into that mindset where it's like, I've done this 1,000 times before. I don't care who our opponent is. I'm just gonna play our game. And I feel like those two players played extremely well. And I feel like Chippies and Calvin straight up choked, which, I mean, it happens, right? It happens, and I feel like that I'm obviously accountable for performance of Direwolves as a team, and for their performances as individuals. So I feel highly like accountable for like what happened. And I know, and for me in Split 2, that's going to be a big thing I want to focus on, is making sure that we're mentally ready to play every single game, whether that's in OPL or whether that's in further international events. I want to make sure that we're ready mentally and in that right frame of mind to be able to give our best performance regardless of who we're versing. So what was the difference between day 2 and 4? Well, day 2, I feel like we were able to play our game more so than day 4. So in day 2, after we versed Supermassive, we knew that we were definitely better than Brazil and Japan. And I feel as if they had the confidence and they knew that we were still in the competition. And then in day 4, I think after like Chippies and Calvin had really poor performances against Supermassive, their confidence levels dropped massively. And I believe League of Legends is a game of confidence, and they just weren't able to recover in day 4. So again, in day 4, they weren't just playing to express themselves. They were kind of demoralized their performance in day 2, and it just like snowballed, and it showed in our performance versus Brazil. And I also feel like that tied in with our lack of identity as well. Like, we weren't able to adapt in, like, so the way we were drafting and the way we were thinking as a team was like, okay, how can we counter that team, and rather than play our own game? And it really kind of like bit us in the ass. How does Oceania compare to other regions? Well, Oceania, I guess, I feel like we are better than a lot of the other like minor regions. Probably other than Turkey, I feel like we can pretty much beat every. Like, I feel like we could beat every other region. Also, it feels like Oceania at its best can rival Turkey if we're able to like play freely. And I feel like and Oceania at its best can beat every other region. The minor region, sorry. This is out of all obviously the wildcard minor regions. And I know people may not believe that, but this is just based off of our results of scrim. So we've scrimmed all the teams, basically, at these events. We've scrimmed multiple times, and versus the top team in each region. And basically that's how, when Direwolves plays at their best, we're able to take down these teams pretty convincingly. And that's just the way I feel. So I feel as though... but in regards to like versing major regions, we haven't scrimmed too many teams from major regions. Like, the times we've done pretty well, but there's been so minimal that it's honestly hard to gauge where we are compared to like NA, EU, Korea, China. Can Oceania do better? Well, to be honest, I feel like the way Oceania can improve internationally is by being every team in the Oceania. I really want to push that they have their own identity, and that they try and experiment with new things. So Oceania is never going to beat
Okay, so if we play NA's playstyle, if we play Korea's playstyle, if we play China's playstyle, we're never going to beat those teams. Like, we're never going to... If we play Turkey, right? If we verse Turkey every year by chance, and we both replicate, like, Korean, like, playstyle, we try and replicate Korean playstyle, they're just going to be able to do it better because they're better individually, and they're always going to be better individually because they've got more people in their region. I feel like the only way Oceania can do better, and I believe we can, because I feel like we have that great sporting culture, and I feel like we've got a lot of like forward-thinking people in Oceania. I feel like if we were able to figure out ways to improve and I guess have like I guess get processes from all other industries that Australia excels in, sporting wise, and figure out ways to improve differently, independently from other regions, I feel like we can have a really good crack. But I feel as if if we are trying to replicate other regions, and this goes across all esports, not even just League of Legends, this is like Counter-Strike. If we just try to replicate every other region, we're never going to be better than them. Because in the end, there's an element to it where it's a game of numbers. So China and Korea and Vietnam, they have I don't know how much, they have millions of players, and it's just not going to work. Like, if we can't out-grind that. We've got like 200,000... I don't know how many ranked players we have, but we're never going to be able to out-grind them. And we have to find our own identity and do it that way. And wherever that leads us to, I'm not sure. But for me, the biggest... the thing that's like the most comparable is... I was talking to Nate Patrick, and he brought up the 2015 Asian Cup with the Socceroos versus South Korea. And they beat South Korea playing like Australian soccer, not any other no European style soccer. They beat them using Australian soccer, and that's when they had the most success. And I feel like that's where Oceania is gonna like excel. I feel like that's where we can excel. Split 2 thoughts with the introduction. I haven't seen like everyone's rosters, but by the looks of it at the moment, with like Mammoth with their upgrades and Order going from a Korean boot camp, and Chiefs obviously got a strong roster of what's called Legacy and Avant. Like all the teams, like obviously I feel like they're going to be a lot stronger in Split 2. It's hard to say where. I'm not really going to make any predictions as to where anyone's going to like end up, but I do feel like it will be a lot closer on the top end of the table, and I feel like especially the gauntlet's going to be like really, really crazy, because I feel like all the teams are going to be very close in skill level, which is really great for the scene in general. So I'm really excited to see everyone improve and raise the level of our region. So yeah, I'll put timestamps in the description, and if any of you guys like wanted to ask any questions, like specifics about things in the event, just like send me a DM on Twitter or whatever like that. Alright, cool. Thank you.